Right now, somewhere in the world, a trader just destroyed 3 months of profits in a single afternoon. Not because their strategy failed, not because the market crashed, but because they were winning. Their account was up, their confidence was soaring, and that's exactly when the trap snapped shut. The most dangerous moment in your trading career isn't when you're losing, it's when you're winning. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why your best trades are setting you up for your worst losses and how to stop this cycle before it destroys everything you've built. You know what's destroying your trading account? It's not that losing streak you had last week. It's not the market conditions. It's not even your strategy. It's something way more dangerous, something you've been celebrating, rewarding yourself for, posting in the Discord about. It's your winning trades. Yeah, you heard me right. Your wins are killing you. I know that sounds completely backwards. How can winning trades destroy an account? Aren't we supposed to win to make money? Stay with me here, because what I'm about to share with you is probably the most important psychological pattern you'll ever understand as a trader, and it's the one thing nobody talks about. See, every trader out there is worried about losses. They're scared of red days. They're terrified of drawdowns. But you know what? Losses aren't your problem. You expect losses. You can handle losses. It's the wins that sneak up on you, rewire your brain, and set you up for the biggest account blowups you'll ever experience. The paradox. Let me paint a picture for you. You've been trading for a while now. You've got your strategy, you've done your back testing, you know your rules. Then one day, boom, you nail a perfect trade. Entry was clean, you followed your rules, and you banked a solid win. Feels good, right? Next trade, another winner. Then another. You're on fire. You're in the zone. You start thinking, maybe I've finally figured this out. Maybe I'm actually good at this. And that's when it starts. That voice in your head gets a little louder. When you see the next setup, it's not just a setup anymore. It's a confirmation that you're skilled. You start taking slightly bigger size because, hey, you're on a roll, right? You start being a little less patient waiting for your exact entry because you've got that Midas touch right now, right? Then the loss comes, and it's not just a loss anymore. It's personal. It's an injustice. How dare the market take money from you? You just proved you know what you're doing. This loss feels different than it did when you were struggling. Back then, losses made sense. Now they feel like the market is disrespecting you. This is the paradox. Winning trades don't just make you money. They fundamentally change how you perceive yourself, how you perceive the market, and how you execute your next trade. And that change, that's what destroys accounts. Psychological breakdown. Let me break down what's actually happening in your brain when you win. There's this chemical cocktail that floods your system. Dopamine, serotonin, all the feel-good stuff. Your brain loves winning. It craves it. And here's the thing. Your brain doesn't distinguish between winning at trading and winning at anything else. A win is a win. But trading isn't like other games. In most games, winning means you're better. When at basketball, you outplayed the other team. When at chess, you outsmarted your opponent. But trading is a probability game. That winning trade doesn't mean you're smarter than the market, it just means probability worked in your favor this time. But your brain doesn't see it that way. Your brain says, we did something right, we're skilled, we're good at this. And suddenly, trading stops being about executing a proven process and starts being about you, your identity, your ego, your sense of self-worth. This is where the real danger begins, because now, after a few wins, something subtle shifts. You're still following your rules, mostly. You still wait for your setups, sort of. You still manage your risk. Well, you increased your position size a bit, but you're more confident now, so that makes sense, right? Let me tell you what's really happening. You're experiencing what psychologists call overconfidence bias. The algorithm of your brain is getting rewired based on recent success. You start believing you have more control over outcomes than you actually do. Here's a real example from my own trading. Years ago, I had a week where I went 7 for 7, 7 perfect trades. I was feeling invincible. I understood the market. I could read the charts like a book. Trade number 8, I saw a setup that was, well, it was close to my criteria. Maybe 70% there instead of my usual 90%. But I was hot, so I took it. bigger size too, because I wanted to capitalize on my streak. That trade stopped me out. And you know what my immediate thought was? That doesn't count. That was just a fluke. The market was weird there. Trade 9, I forced it even harder, needed to prove that the last loss was just noise. Doubled my normal size because I needed to make back what I lost plus what I should have made if that fluke hadn't happened. Guess what happened? Another loss, except this one was bigger because of the size. Now I'm not just trading anymore. I'm in an emotional war with the market. My winning streak, the thing I was so proud of, had become a prison. I felt entitled to win. I felt like the market owed me. And that entitlement led me to break every single rule I had spent years developing. This is what wins do to you. They create a version of yourself that feels invincible, and an invincible trader is a reckless trader. The subtle rule violations. Here's what most traders miss. The rule breaking doesn't happen all at once. It's not like you wake up after a winning trade and say, you know what? I'm going to throw my entire trading plan out the window. It's way more subtle than that. It starts with tiny justifications. You're waiting for your setup and you see something that's almost there. Maybe the risk reward is 1 to 2.5 instead of your usual 1 to 3. Your old self would skip it. But your winning self says, I'm seeing the market clearly right now. I can make this work. Or maybe you have a rule about taking only 2 trades per day. You've already taken your 2, both winners. Then you see another setup in the afternoon. Your rule says stop, but that little voice says, rules are for people who aren't in the zone. You're different right now. You're seeing things others aren't. Or position sizing. You've got a rule about risking only 1% per trade. But after 3 wins, you bump it to 1.5%. I'm trading well. I should capitalize on it. After 5 wins, it's at 2%. This is when good traders press their edge. You see what's happening. Each violation feels justified in the moment. And because you're winning, the market is validating those violations. That trade you forced, it might even win, which makes it even worse, because now your brain says, see, trust your instinct. You're evolved beyond your rigid rules. But here's the reality. Those rules you created weren't made for when things are going well. They were made to protect you from yourself when things aren't. And the dangerous part is that you're most vulnerable to breaking them exactly when you feel like you don't need them anymore. I've seen traders, good traders, profitable traders, completely destroy months of gains in a single week because they went on a winning streak and convinced themselves they'd transcended their strategy. The wins didn't just give them profit. The wins gave them permission to become someone they weren't supposed to be. From execution to identity. This is where we need to talk about something uncomfortable. Identity. When you're struggling as a trader, trading is something you do. When you start winning consistently, trading becomes something you are. Think about it. When you're losing or break even, you tell people, yeah, I trade on the side, but after a good month, I'm a trader. That shift from doing to being is huge, and it's dangerous. Because now every trade becomes a referendum on your identity. A loss isn't just a statistical outcome anymore. It's evidence that maybe you're not who you thought you were, and you can't have that. Your ego won't allow it. This is why winning traders often have bigger emotional reactions to losses than struggling traders. The struggling trader expects to lose sometimes. The winning trader feels personally attacked by it. It challenges the narrative they've built about themselves. I remember working with a Forex trader who had built his account up 40% over 3 months. Solid, consistent trading. He started posting screenshots, telling his family he'd figured it out, mentally spending the money he'd make if he kept this pace going. Then he had a normal 3% drawdown week, totally within his system's expected variance. But he couldn't handle it. It wasn't the money that bothered him, it was what the losses meant about him. He'd built an identity around being the guy who figured out Forex, and these losses threatened that identity. So what did he do? He revenge traded his way to a 15% drawdown, trying to prove the market wrong, trying to prove to himself that he was still who he thought he was. That's the trap. Wins make you attach your self-worth to your results. And once that attachment forms, you stop trading the market and start trading your feelings about yourself. The revenge trading reframe. Now, everybody talks about revenge trading like it's something that happens after a loss. You take a bad trade, you lose money, you get angry, and you immediately jump back in to get your money back. And yeah, that happens. But that's not the revenge trading I'm worried about. The revenge trading that destroys accounts doesn't start after a loss. It starts after a win. Here's what really happens. You have a great winning streak. Your brain gets flooded with that dopamine, that validation, that sense of being in control. You're experiencing the emotional high of being right, of being skilled, of being successful. And here's the secret. Your brain becomes addicted to that feeling. So when the next loss comes, you're not trying to get the money back. You're trying to get the feeling back. You're trying to reclaim that emotional state where you felt powerful, confident, in control. The money is just the vehicle. This is why revenge trading after wins is so much more dangerous than revenge trading after losses. After a loss, you might take 1 or 2 bad trades to make it back, and then you calm down. But after a winning streak, you'll chase that high for days, weeks, even months, because you know what it feels like to be on top and you'll do anything to get back there. And the cruel irony, the harder you chase that feeling, the further away it gets, because that feeling didn't come from your skill. It came from probability temporarily working in your favor. And you can't force probability. You can't revenge trade your way back into variance working for you. I've watched traders give back entire months of profits in 3 days because they were chasing the emotional high of their winning streak. They weren't even thinking about the money anymore. They were addicted to the feeling of being right. So let's put this all together into what I call the account death cycle. And I want you to really pay attention here because I guarantee you've experienced this, maybe multiple times, and you didn't even realize what was happening. It starts with a win. Clean trade, good execution, profit in the bank. Your confidence ticks up slightly. That's normal. That's fine. Then another win. Confidence ticks up a bit more. You're feeling good. 3, 4, 5 wins. Now you're feeling great. You're in the zone. The market makes sense. You've got this. This is where the subtle rule relaxation starts. Maybe you take a slightly lower quality setup. Maybe you increase your position size a bit. Maybe you trade through a time window you normally avoid, but it works. You win again. And now your brain has learned breaking the rules works when you're hot. Then comes the inevitable loss. But this loss feels different. It feels wrong. It feels like it shouldn't have happened because you've been winning. You've been right. You've been in control. This loss challenges your new identity as someone who's figured it out. So you respond from your ego. You need to prove that loss was a fluke. You take the next trade more aggressively. Bigger size, less patience, worse setup. Just need to show that you're still that winning trader. Another loss. Now you're in pain. Not just financial pain, emotional pain, identity crisis pain. So you increase risk even more because you need to recover not just the money, but the feeling of being right. And here's the killer. All it takes is 1 or 2 of these oversized ego trades to completely wipe out 5, 10, sometimes 20 winning trades. Because you're not trading with 1% risk anymore. You're trading with 3%, 5%, sometimes 10% risk because you're in full emotional override mode. I've seen traders lose in one afternoon what took them 3 months to build. Not because their strategy stopped working, not because the market changed, but because their wins convinced them they were special and their ego couldn't handle being proven ordinary. Why traders miss this? So why don't more traders see this pattern? Why isn't this talked about more? Because winning feels like the solution, not the problem. When you're winning, you feel like you've finally figured it out. You feel like you've graduated past the struggle phase. The last thing you're thinking is, I need to be more careful now. No, you're thinking, it's finally working, I can relax a bit. And that's exactly when you're most vulnerable. Losing traders are paranoid. They're cautious. They're constantly questioning themselves. They review every trade. They're hyper aware of their mistakes. That's actually healthy. That's the mindset that keeps you safe. But winning traders, they get complacent. They stop reviewing because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They stop questioning because they've got recent evidence they're doing things right. They become blind to their own psychological drift. It's like how the best drivers get into the worst accidents, not because they're bad drivers, but because their skill makes them overconfident. They start taking risks that beginners would never take. They stop being afraid of the road, and that's when the road catches them. Winning traders stop being afraid of the market. They start to believe they have control, and the moment you believe you control the market is the moment the market is about to teach you a very expensive lesson. The solution framework. So what's the answer? How do you win without letting it destroy you? One word: neutrality. Emotional neutrality is the edge you're looking for. Here's what that actually means in practice. Every trade, win or lose, should feel exactly the same. I know that sounds impossible. Wins feel good, losses feel bad. That's just human nature, right? But I'm not talking about the immediate emotional response. I'm talking about what happens next. After a winning trade, you should take the exact same actions you take after a losing trade. You review the trade objectively. You ask yourself, did I follow my process? Was this a good setup according to my rules? Was my position size appropriate? Would I take this exact trade again in the same circumstances? Notice none of those questions are about the outcome, because the outcome doesn't tell you if you traded well. Probability tells you the outcome. Process tells you if you traded well. After a winning trade, you don't get to increase your position size. After a losing trade, you don't get to decrease it. After a win, you don't get to relax your entry criteria. After a loss, you don't get to be extra picky. Your rules stay identical because your rules aren't based on recent results, they're based on long-term statistics. Here's a practice that changed everything for me. I started asking myself before every trade, would I take this exact trade with this exact position size if my last trade was a loss? If the answer was no, I don't take the trade, because that means I'm trading from emotion, not from process. Think about that. If you're only taking a trade because you're feeling confident from recent wins, that's not edge, that's ego. Real edge doesn't change based on your emotional state. Real edge is consistent application of a proven process regardless of recent results. The best traders I know treat wins and losses like data points, nothing more. They literally feel the same after both. That's not because they're robots, it's because they've trained themselves to detach their identity from their outcomes. You are not your last trade. You are not your win rate. You are not your monthly return. You are a person executing a process. The market will reward that process sometimes and punish it sometimes. Your job is to execute it identically either way. The real problem. Here's what you need to understand. The problem was never your strategy. Most traders have a perfectly fine strategy. Some have genuinely great strategies. The problem is unregulated success. You can handle failure. Failure makes you careful, makes you humble, makes you stick to your process. But success? Success makes you feel invincible. Success makes you think the rules don't apply to you anymore. Success plants the seed for your next drawdown. Every major blow-up I've ever seen, including my own, happened after a period of success, not after a period of struggle. The struggle makes you sharp. The success makes you sloppy. And here's the really challenging part. You can't prevent winning. You shouldn't want to prevent winning. Winning is literally the goal, but you have to approach winning the same way you approach a dangerous substance, with respect, with caution, with awareness of what it can do to you if you're not careful. Winning without emotional control is like giving someone a bunch of money with no financial education. It's not going to end well. The money isn't the problem. The lack of management is the problem. So when you win, celebrate for a moment. Feel good for a moment. You earned it. But then, and this is critical, you reset. You go back to zero. You approach the next trade like you're a break-even trader still trying to prove your system works. You don't get to carry that confidence forward. You earn it fresh on every single trade. Look, I know this is heavy. I know it's not the sexy stuff you wanted to hear. You probably clicked on this video hoping I'd tell you some secret about strategy or setups. But I'm telling you, from 20 years of doing this and coaching hundreds of traders, your strategy is probably fine. Your psychology around success is what's killing you. The traders who make it aren't the ones with the best strategy. They're the ones with the best emotional regulation after wins. They're the ones who can be successful without becoming someone different. They're the ones who understand that every win is a test of their discipline, not a confirmation of their skill. Starting today, I want you to do something different. After your next winning trade, don't celebrate. Don't get excited. Don't think about how much you'll make if you keep this up. Just close the platform, take a walk, reset your mind, and come back to the next trade like the last one never happened. Treat your wins like they're dangerous, because they are. Respect your wins the same way you respect your losses. And remember, you are not trying to be a winning trader. You're trying to be a consistent trader. The winning comes from the consistency, not the other way around. The market doesn't care about your confidence. The market doesn't care about your recent results. The market is going to do what probability dictates. Your job is to show up the exact same way every single time, regardless of what happened before. That's how you survive this game long enough to actually succeed at it. And hey, if this hit home for you, if you've experienced this cycle and you're ready to break it, do me a favor, hit that like button. Not for me, but as a commitment to yourself that you're going to start treating your wins with the respect they deserve. And subscribe to the channel because we're going to keep diving into the psychological patterns that nobody else wants to talk about, the uncomfortable truths that actually make the difference between traders who make it and traders who blow up. Thanks for sticking with me through this. I know it wasn't easy to hear, but you needed to hear it. Now go execute your process and remember, your last trade doesn't matter. Only your next decision does.